Hello?
Hello, Josefina.
I called, all right. That was good. Well, hello, how are you?
Good. Welcome to LacanCast. It's a great honor to have you here.
Thank you so much, Fabio.
Today we're going to have a talk with Josefina Ayerza. She's a writer. She has private practice in New York City. She has a seminar in NYU. She created the Lacan.com website in 1997. She contributes to several magazines. She founded the Lacanian Inc., a magazine of psychoanalysis in 1990. She's a member of the World Association of Psychoanalysis. But I would like to begin by asking you to introduce yourself in your own words, Josefina, please.
Okay. Well, my work in my own words, as you say, I can relate to people of letters. I like this because of the idea that of the prospect of the word, much as it can include, the part of literary philosophy, all this that we study. Let's say we can call it the uttered, what we say, and much as there is the letter, as Lacan, the Jacques Lacan letter, the utterance, which is the unconscious, which is the one we want, and Lacan happens to call it the letter. Now, through this, which is Jacques Lacan letter, is how I can say I become a writer, I become a psychoanalyst, I become an editor, a webmistress, a teacher at NYU.
Very good.
There's even more, maybe, but let's say.
And please tell us, how did your encounter with Lacanian psychoanalysis, more specifically with the World Association of Psychoanalysis, how did this happen?
Well, my first encounter was in Buenos Aires. I'm Argentinian, and let's say that I was wandering around bars, which is something you do in Argentina, especially at that time. Let's say the end of, before Lacan, a bit before Lacan died, which was the end of the 70s and the beginning of the 80s. And so wandering the bars is that I met Masota. And especially this day, he had a book and the letter seemed to flash the name, Four Fundamental Concepts by Jacques Lacan. This was the first approach that I had, a real approach, is to talk about it. And so, of course, nobody had the book but Masota. So this was like the exclusive table where we sat and we talked about something that, of course, nobody else would understand. And not even us, I think, would understand too much. But, that in Lacan there is this such beauty and pleasure of the words that we were understanding little by little, but we would go to that table very much every day and sit there and discuss it and understand whatever we could. Till, let's say, Masota at a certain point left and he went to Spain. But it was times of, it wasn't the flower power anymore. I met Lacan that was like tough times. So I have anecdotes of Masota. Do you want to hear them?
Definitely, yeah.
For instance, it was like an atmosphere of, he would say, call my girlfriend. The girlfriend was called Renee, and she was very, very pretty. So I would call Renee, and he would answer and say, Renee just left. But before she left, she broke a bottle of beer on my head, for instance. So this was going to be, Masota, this uh, people appreciated him so much, and he knew so much about Lacan. But anyway, this was the climate, it was confrontational, it was violence, it was no more flower power, and let's say that was very well, the letter kills, he would say, Lacan says the letter kills. So everything was very strong, and also there was, Buenos Aires difficult in the end of the 80s and the 70s. Finally, I was one of the people that had to leave the country because it was so dangerous. You didn't really know why they were going to kill you. So Masota went to Spain, and I went to Paris at that point. And then I came back to Buenos Aires after some months, and then I stayed in Buenos Aires, and I went to study with Germán Garcia at the Biblioteca. And Germán Garcia taught me a lot of things. It was very severe also in this line of things, like very severe and very demanding, and it was never the right phrase to say it. And then I started coming to the United States and studied at Barnard College with Stuart Schneiderman. But I was so interested in bringing Lacan into the English that what I did was coming to the seminars, did my analysis in English with Stuart, and then thought about doing this Lacanian ink that now has 20 years. And so now and then we did this workshop with Stuart, and then Miller and Laurent came we had a meeting on perversion at a certain point, which was a pity because then everybody, I don't know, there was all fightings in there, and finally the workshop was dropped by Stuart, and we missed it a lot. But let's say that brought me to Paris, which was interesting enough. And so after some years of analysis, a lot of analysis with Stuart, I went finally to Paris, and I started like this finishing of my analysis with Laurent very much. And then I started working after a while, and so I had some supervision with Miller.
Wow, such a great piece of history of how things had this early beginning in the U.S. As you had moved from Buenos Aires, and then you went to Paris, and then you went back to Buenos Aires before you started coming to the U.S.?
Yes, and then I back to Buenos Aires, and then I went back to the United States, and there I studied I found, let's say, I was looking for Lacan in English. Can you imagine? So difficult. I remember going through all the bookstores and looking for books of Lacan in English. I found something that is Elena Schulze-Kilze, and she was doing this last book. She was ending the publishing she was doing. And then I found The Death of an Intellectual Hero by Stuart Schneiderman. So I really loved the book when I read it, and I thought, wow, finally, this is going to take me where I want. So I called him on the phone. But at the same time, it was daring because I never met this man. I only had a book of his. He said he was American and he had gone to Paris to study. And so, well, I called him and he gave me an appointment. I was a little bit afraid when I first went, it was like the 26th floor in the Turtle Towers. Also, not being American, everything is, this is years ago, everything is a little bit more different and difficult. But anyway, I went there and I started my analysis immediately. I liked him. I was a little bit afraid in the beginning of I don't know what, but little by little, because he was very much like Lacan. He even told me that his gestures and everything, he took them from Lacan, and he was And he sometimes said, "Do you want me to copy Lacan exactly?" And he would do them. And that was so much fun. So much fun. So, well, I went through, I think, first I did like 3 years or 4. Then I think I stopped for a while. And he said that if I was going to stop, he wasn't obliged to take me back, which terrified me. But I left, I went to Buenos Aires, longer time, and then when I came back, he was delighted to take me back, I must say. So then I continued, and I think in total it must be somehow more than 5 years or something like that.
Okay. And Josefina, tell me, what are your current projects?
My current projects now is a point where Lacanian Inc. has done 20 years of itself. They say it's been 20 years of Lacanian Inc. And we are in number 44, 43, 44. It crossed my mind to end it and maybe start something else, or maybe, but I wrote to Miller saying this, and Miller wrote with this funny word. He says, Josefina, why suppress Lacanian Inc.? So I think that's an answer already. And I won't suppress Lacanian Inc., as you can imagine, but I think something has to change. So you remember the clinical cases of Maria Cristina that we like so much, and I liked writing mine very much because there you're really writing yourself. You're writing about your work, but like in a very personal, because nobody saw that, not even the patient can. They say you're not going to tell the patient, but anyway, it's your writing alone, you and your experience, and it's you very much. So I wrote my case. I enjoyed writing it a lot, and after Miller's supervision, asking me, because in the beginning I was going there, and he would say, "Where is my language? I need to structure the cases, you know." So I finally did it. I think I structured it. I think I put all the Lacanian words in there, and it was much more interesting, really. I learned a lot with Miller in a very short time as how to do that, you know, how to give it to Lacanians. This is not a matter of everybody to read it. It's like a patient in a Lacanian word, but at the same time it's very informative as how we work. And then I found this nice book which is called L'autre malin. How can I translate that? The naughty other or something like that?
Yeah, the bad other.
The bad other. So, which helped me reading a little bit of how, and the other book of the psychoses, which is Everyday Psychosis. That book also had. Well, anyway, so I may do that. My next project maybe try to publish and talk about the clinical and, so talk about the clinical and publish something that is very much about the clinical and the cases. In Lacanian Inc., This is one project. Then I also have the symptom, which I really like. Did you see my magazine online? And this is more not so, I would say, it's different, it's all different cases, different things, maybe videos, which the internet could be used for that. So that's also fun to do. And now it's time to do maybe another symptom because we just had a Lacanian. Can I show it to you? Yes. This one? Did you see it?
Oh, show me. Can you put it up a little bit? Oh, nice. The ear.
Do you see the ear?
Yes.
It's a wonderful ear, right?
Very nice.
And since I was going to, I confess something. Since I was going to finish it, look what I did. Something the editor never does. And this was a photograph of Volkan Tillman that he took from me, and I was never putting it in because of this. The editor doesn't go on the magazine, but I didn't put my name. It's just a photograph of his, and let's say I didn't even say Volcan. I didn't say anything. I just put it in there. I thought it was going to be the last issue, and as I tell you, don't suppress Lacanian. I'm not suppressing it. And it's called The Cut Word. Okay. And so the cut word was going to be the cut of the magazine, but it's going to be the cut of the sessions, because next time we're going to talk of sessions. Okay, I think it's a very nice work. It's Wolfgang Tillman, and there's nice images inside and very nice articles, I think.
Very good. And what are the current topics and thematics that you have been dedicating yourself to in your seminars? What's your current interest?
Well, my last seminar, I did 3 seminars in the United States. I'm not, I don't rush. I like to read Lacan with its own timing. So I did. First, it was the 4 fundamental concepts. And we went really chapter per chapter. Then I did Encore, which is so beautiful. And then now the last one was Psychosis. But, it's something I always wanted to read. It's difficult to read it by yourself, and it's something that it has, lots of chapters. But the story of Schreber is so fantastic. And I think my public was very, very interested, because I showed little pieces of Schreber's movie, where he really turns into a travesty of God, and so he's dressing himself in the mirror and putting the women's clothes and painting his lips and doing all the conversion, So Psychosis was my last topic, and it took a while, as I tell you, chapter per chapter. It's a lot of chapters, but we did them all. We went through everything till the point de capiton, which is one of the very, very last ones, which I thought was a very, very nice way to finish it before the summer break, which is now. I just finished it. What can I say? There's also the fun stories, of the psychotic. Seems like a hard topic, like psychosis, is sad, or it's this thing that you don't come back from there. There's absolutely no cure, especially for Lacan. Although it got so interesting, because now they found this of the psychotic symptoms. So I think that that's a topic to go through very much, because for Lacan there was no psychotic symptoms. There was psychosis or not. Once you were a psychotic, there's nothing to do. Now you see that I think in this United States we live, there's so much of this neurosis with psychotic symptoms. So I had the opportunity to study that, talk about it with them, and I don't know, sometimes there was jokes, we would laugh a lot, like for instance the typical story of the analyst of the chicken. Do you remember that story of the chicken?
From Seminar 3?
The one of the psychotic that believes that he's a seed.
Okay.
You remember it?
I remember that coming back from the butcher one, right? I come from the butcher.
No. This is not a story of Lacan, but I remember, I would like to tell it because people were laughing, and then they were telling the story to me, the ones that remembered. No, this is a story of some psychotic guy, and he said he was a seed. And so, he was a seed with all the dangers that implied. So the family just didn't know what to do with him, this disaster of him being a seed and being so exposed. to the things that can happen to a seed, they decide to take him to the hospital. So they put him in the hospital, and all the doctors come, and so they talk to him and say, well, you're not a seed. You're not a seed. You're not a seed. So finally, he listens to the doctors and listens to the doctors and finally says, okay, I'm not a seed. Now I know I'm not a seed. Oh, said the doctors, now he's cured. So they called the family and they said, well, now for White, he has forgotten about being a seed. And not only that, he says that he's not a seed. Okay, so he can go home. So there he goes, makes his back, he's going home. And then he gets to the door and starts screaming and yelling. And so the doctors again, what's the matter now? And he says, okay, I'm not a seed. You said you said you were not a seed. What's the matter? What are you doing? I'm not a seed. I understand that. But what about him? And so the other side of the door he was going to go was a glass door. There was a chicken. And so he says, I know that I'm not a seed. But what about him? Does he know? Do you follow?
Yeah.
Do you understand it? There's a chicken the other side of the door that can eat him. So anyway, we were telling these kinds of stories, and they were also remembering, because then after a while they wanted to tell the story again. It was like, Caperucita Roja, here they call it Red Riding Hood, that they wanted to hear the story again and again, the story of the seed, and then they changed it a little bit. But we laughed a lot with that, stories like that, of the psychotics. This is a very old story that the psychoanalysts have told now and then. Slavoj, of course, tells the story. And
Really, language is treated by the psychotic, right?
it's nice to explain the other with a capital, the big other. It's very nice. I know it, but does the big other know it? Does he know it?
Yeah. And Josefina, how can our audience find out more about you and your work?
Well, I think my work is so exposed that I don't know that I can invent something else, because the website, first of all, is quite big. I would say I have 2 million hits there, so it means that quite a lot of people go, and it's a lot for a psychoanalytic, whatever we want to call it. Now, I try to have. Well, there is, all the various, the part that doesn't move with all Lacan's work in the French and the translations of Lacan's work, but there is an information there that doesn't move so much with Lacan. Then there is a Miller, which moves more, so we update it as much as we can, and then there is Laurent. And then there was some work of John Project that was putting in, and Bruce Fink, some work also, my own work, my writings. After all, I've written 40 little introductions in Lacanian ink, which makes for quite a lot. I've written in other media. I have all the writing about art. You know that I also wrote for Miller in Lan, like an article of 4 pages about art and Lacan. That I know how to do. And I also do it for other magazines. I write for Art Forum, I write for Flash Art. Sometimes I did a lot of interviews for Flash Art. And but my work, I think, is very, very Lacanian. It's always related. And also I teach, in the art department.
Oh, in the art.
Yes, I teach on Stuyvesant Street, which is a very old building of NYU, very, very pretty, and the building, but it is the art department, what we have of art department in NYU. So that's another part of my work, which is very nice. And I wrote this article for LAN. Then it was commented from some Italian critic, which made everybody very happy. And I think it was a very nice article. It was the moment that the new museum opened. So I thought that commenting on the new museum and the art in there was a fun thing to do, and I did it.
This is great. Well, Josefina, it was an honor to have you here. Hope to have you back soon when we do our second round of interviews about the publications in English in the United States, for which you are a great part of. And I hope to see you soon.
Thank you so much, Fabio. It was lovely to talk to you in this new way. I've never done this. It's my first experience. Okay. Thank you.